And we're back. Unfortunately, this weekend we were devoid of Premier League games, but the crew is back all together. Utsav clocking in, desperate to get back to work. Such a good employee. If his bosses are hearing him, are listening to us, please take note of this in his annual checkup. Apurv in Jaipur, last few weeks in Jaipur, and Anitej in Hyderabad. So, and I'm Ashwin from Bangalore, and biggest events of this weekend, football related, obviously the international break, but I think we're all like hotly anticipating the games this week. You know, when you go without the Premier League for 2 weeks, you realize how empty our lives are without games on the weekend. So the first game coming, we'll just talk about international fixtures a little bit, but we'll talk about the first game coming into this big weekend is Everton Liverpool, an incredibly anticipated derby considering where Everton stand on the table. I think I can't remember a derby where Everton were above Liverpool. So this is a really, really big opportunity for the big signings of Everton to really make a mark on the game. We'll quickly talk about Everton and their players during the week. During the international break, we had Digne having a really good game for France. Richarlison, James, Yeremina all played big parts for their respective South American teams in the South American qualifiers. Liverpool obviously having Naby Keita test positive, but big news in Thiago and Mane returning. You guys were discussing a little bit about what you guys expect to see considering it's the first international break, and Everton, despite the fact that they've never really had too many players go for international breaks before, now you can see the profile of their squad when you see how many people and where all these guys are going to play. Calvert-Lewin obviously having a great impact on the English national team coming in this first game scoring. Would you guys see Liverpool? Do you think this is a positive considering Liverpool's last game and considering the form Everton coming in, that this is going to be after a break?
Yeah, I definitely think so because I think Klopp always prepares well for a big game, especially against like sides, who consider themselves ready for the challenge against Liverpool. And also it's at Goodison Park. And saying that, recently, even though Everton has not matched up with Liverpool in the past how many ever seasons, Klopp has not done too well at Goodison Park. Last 2-3 fixtures have been draws, and I think we've got 2 draws and 1 win in the last 3 fixtures. So it's going to be a good derby. I hope Ancelotti attacks Liverpool and goes for the win because we're expecting a really good game. And if that happens, I think we can get ready for something really, really exciting and probably it has potential to be one of the best derbies going in probably in the last decade or so.
In a long time. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Utsav and Anitej were talking about the cohesion of the squad after an international break, and what do you guys make of that? And what do you think, especially considering, like I said, Liverpool's last result? Do you think it's a good thing that they all went all over the world and kind of put that result behind them, and then come in now with fresh sort of expectations and hopes?
I mean, I know that Klopp wasn't happy with the fact that the international break was right after because he didn't have time to talk to the team and stuff like that. But he did say that, that night after that Villa game, he sent out a big text to the entire squad and he was like, I just needed to get that out there. He did obviously have, Thiago and Mane back in training during this because of the non-international break for them. So I think that was good. And honestly, huge for the team going into this game. Like for Liverpool, I mean, just to have those 2 big names back. We have Matip back. I am interested to see if he persists with Gomez or Matip for this game because, Gomez hasn't been the best so far this season. I definitely do think it will be a big game. So I don't know, in terms of the international break part of it, it's positives for sure, getting it out of the way, negatives in the sense that you don't get that extra week to prepare with the team and all of that. But I mean it's gonna be a close game for sure. So we'll see.
And even Hendo is available. He got some good minutes in the international break. I think he played both games at least 20 minutes. And I think he'll be a huge addition, especially when Naby and Gini Wijnaldum both are offering the same thing. There's not too much flair going in or, those cutting edge passes or that work rate Henderson has to offer is not there from Naby Keita. So I think there could be possibly 4 changes from the squad that faced Aston Villa, with all these big names coming back and Matip may potentially replacing Gomez. So a lot to look forward to,
As far as
Yeah,
Everton, actually, they might have Yerry Mina missing through injury. And I think compared to last season, the defense hasn't been that great this season. They've conceded in literally every game besides playing Spurs on the opening day. But yeah, now they have Yerry Mina missing as well. And Mason Holgate from last season has been a big miss for them, I think. He was brilliant for them last season under Ancelotti. Ancelotti, sorry, I should. Um, But yeah, I mean, and that too coming back from an international break right now, I think Liverpool. It was better for Liverpool than Everton for sure.
yeah, and another thing is we were talking about the South American qualifiers. I mentioned those. So their games end, I think, today, which is a Thursday, which is crazy considering that they'll have to fly all the way
Yeah,
across the world and come and play the first game, which is it's a 12 p.m. local time kickoff. So I wonder how that's going to affect, especially considering both these clubs are filled with South American players. You know, you have Firmino and you have James. You have a lot of players on both sides. So
Richarlison.
that'll be interesting to see. And just a little bit, like we'll talk a little bit more about the international breaks. You guys, Bala wanted to talk about the France game, and I mentioned Dinier's performance and how that's going to carry a lot of weight coming into this game. But to just go off a little bit of a tangent in like a non-Premier League direction, we saw Griezmann finally have a good game after forever, and it's just interesting to see how he forced his way out of Barcelona, and now he's crying that the team doesn't play the style that he wants. So I just wanted to know what your take was on that. So you had an interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, once again, France just always, as usual, doing really, really well on an international level. Their players seem to gel. You have Mbappe, you have Griezmann, all these guys, putting in work. And I mean, yeah, the biggest thing for me is just the disparity in terms of, I mean, obviously in the last year, 12, 14 months, Griezmann hasn't been as good as those heights as he was during the World Cup and the Euros before that. But still, in general, you just see how he still manages to get on the goal sheet, still manages to create all over. And versus on the other side at Barca, where just nothing seems to be clicking for him. But that's the biggest thing I just did want to touch upon. And I mean, who knows, maybe they will change the system, and who knows how much of it is actually to do with the system rather than, I feel like with Barca, if there is a system in place, it is to support Messi, if we're being completely honest, versus in France where you do obviously have world class players like Mbappe and stuff, but still it definitely feels like with such big names, I think the biggest thing is just the cohesion with the team, and is how it's just that everyone can just support each other and everyone just, does really well.
Yeah, and I think international breaks, you can see, like you said, like Griezmann is a perfect example of, you can see how like fitting a player in a system is so indicative of how good that player ends up looking on the field, right? And talking about square pegs and round holes, we have the entire England national setup.
I was just gonna say,
which is a good segue into like just the disastrous results for them this week. Maybe not disastrous in that they won one game, but then the second game, thanks to Captain Greece, Harry Maguire, they had a little bit of a troublesome game going 10 men with 35 minutes into the game. But I think that's a good segue considering that first game of England was a huge game for the young Arsenal left back, whatever he is these days, left winger. And he had a massive week, scored the goal against Sheffield. And now Arsenal host City, who, again, players had a very interesting international break. De Bruyne looks like he's iffy for the game. I think he's like 75% likely that he starts. So that's a huge bit of news considering how poor City have looked in the last 12 months without De Bruyne on the field. So what does the Arsenal fan think? And you were talking about, again, you were mentioning that how City have such a world-class squad and that all their players are traveling all over the world. Ruben Diaz, and we talked about Portugal. They have so many, Cancelo, Diaz, coming from all over the world, whereas Arsenal, for the most part, because they have a young squad, are playing together for this period of these two. I mean, we're together for these 2 weeks. So that do you see that helping them this weekend? What do you expect from the game? City have had Arsenal's number for a long time in the league now. So
I think the game is at the Ethiad, right?
Yeah. So we haven't won at the Etihad since like 2015, that Cazorla masterclass. But yeah, I don't really know if this is gonna help or not, if the international break helped or not, because clearly the entire Tierney situation He didn't even get tested positive. It's just someone else. I forget who. I think it was Armstrong
Stuart
who got
Armstrong.
it. Yeah, and they were playing PlayStation together apparently, but there are pictures and there's evidence that he was socially distancing, so there's an entire drama going on regarding that. But I don't think he's gonna start, which leaves Kolasinac. So I don't really know how that's gonna go. But the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope is that City, if you think about how they've played this season, they've started games really well, but they've always died out. The Leeds game, even the game before that.
The Wolves game is a
Yeah, the
perfect
Wolves,
example.
exactly. Even the Leeds game, they scored early, but then they dropped off and Leeds got back into the game. So I feel like if Arsenal can hold on for the first half for 60 minutes, then I think we have a good chance of actually getting a result, maybe even a win. But regarding the starting lineup, and if I don't know who he's going to go with because Partey is actually going to train today for the first time with the team, so I don't know if he's going to start or not. He had international duty as well. So yeah, I mean there were few key players who are missing from the training these past 2 weeks. So I don't know who's going to start, who isn't.
Yeah,
But
just talk about Saka's week a little bit and what you make of him and the impact you expect for him to have this season. He's every single thing. I mean, just the guy's attitude towards like life is so interesting because he's such a God-fearing, like he's like a 19-year-old. That's so unlike like today's youth, right? Like I don't see like young footballers tweeting like Jesus Christ and tweeting like biblical verses and just an incredible young lad. And like, he's had a phenomenal
I mean, especially with
rise
all
to stardom in the last weeks.
with all the drama that's been going around England, especially the England squad, with all the youth like Mason Greenwood and Phil Foden, and now even Trippier has got into some trouble.
Ben Chilwell and Tammy
Chilwell,
Abraham.
yeah. All of them getting in trouble. This guy's just like really focused, and he was talking about how when he first got his call up, he was in shock. He was on the plane for like good 5 minutes. He was moving, and Lacazette had to come smack him on the head in time to get off the plane. I found that funny, and I mean, he just seems like a brilliant talent. But this season, what I expect from him is just his versatility. I think Arteta's going to be playing him in all sorts of roles, like he did last season. Does he start against City? Maybe, given this Tierney thing that's going on. But yeah, I mean, he got nominated for the Golden Boy.
Golden Boy.
Yeah.
All I know is that goal he scored against Sheffield was the difference between Bad Luck FC and Team Ashwin Vitan in the end. So thank you, Bukayo. It seemed to be like a consolation goal, but thanks to Grealish and Salah, it became a valid goal in the end. But any predictions? We haven't done predictions in a while, and I think this was a really like interesting game for us. I think the Liverpool predictions are not like might have a little bit of a bias, so we'll go with the City Arsenal as the biggest game of the week for predictions, and we'll go around starting off with Utsav.
Well, I was gonna say I've started to dip my toe into the betting, and this is the one game that I was probably gonna stay away from. Ironically.
So, what are the odds for the City game?
Yeah, so this for the City game currently on Bovada, so it can change. It's -1 for City. So what that essentially means, for those of you that don't know, is that City would essentially have to win by more than one goal. If they win by one goal, it would be what we call a push. So, you would get your money back. So from an Arsenal standpoint, they essentially just have to lose by a goal or less, or essentially draw or win. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic for Arsenal. I think City have been just very lackluster. They haven't been helped by injuries and with Jesus and Aguero. This whole decision to play Fernandinho and Rodri, I mean, it's a little bit too slow for me in midfield. But, I don't know. It's tough to bet on Arsenal. But I'll say that, maybe a draw. Maybe a draw.
Yeah, and I think a draw would be a massive result for Arsenal, right? And the odds are heavily against that result coming through. So that's a big game. And I think just staying on this theme of international breaks and how we can see these teams sort of play out in the Premier League. Another thing that Utsav mentioned was Havertz and Werner, two players who haven't seemed particularly on fire in the Premier League yet. They're both young guys. They've just come into the league. Obviously a weird season considering no off season, all that. but you can see the talent in them every time they play outside. Like what they did for Germany. I think it was against Switzerland or Ukraine, was it, where they scored four? It was 4-0, and Havertz
Switzerland.
and Switzerland. Sorry, yeah. So
Oh
Havertz
no.
and
Oh, I thought you were talking about the 3-3. Never mind.
that was 3-3. That was the second game. The first game they won 4-0.
Right.
Havertz had a goal and an assist, and Werner had a goal and an assist. So really, really intriguing to see how they will perform against Southampton this weekend. Southampton haven't had the hottest starts to the season, but slowly improving. Couple of wins on the trot. So going to be a really interesting game. But two games that we decided to talk about were the Leicester Villa game and the Tottenham West Ham game. So if one of you can take off and talk about Leicester and what you expect from Leicester Villa. Villa have been one of the stories of the season without a doubt so far. 3-3. We spoke a little bit about them last episode, but if either of you can talk about, what you expect from this game and what you expect from Leicester, and do you see this being another upset for Villa?
So I think it's going to be, if not for these big games, I think it's going to be a really, really fun game to watch, especially with the way Villa have started playing and the signing they made in Barkley, and the connection Barkley and Grealish showed. And Leicester are not going to stand by. They're going to attack Aston Villa too. They see potential 3 points against Aston Villa. So it's going to be a really interesting game to watch. And I would actually predict that Aston Villa could get the result and get the 3 points just because they've been better defensively as compared to Leicester. But then again, with Leicester's experience, you don't know what's going to happen. So
Isn't
it's
Maddison
going to be a great
back?
game to watch. Madison, I'm not sure because he was back
He's been
and then he
back
got
for a
injured.
while.
He got injured
Yeah.
again. So
So no one
at least
knows.
online it says it's going to be like a
Unfortunately.
game time decision.
So this is going back to that betting theme. This is one game that I identified as a good bet. Leicester at home. It's -0.5, so they essentially just need to win at home. Nothing to take away from Aston Villa, but I think what Apoor was saying at the back end of those points, I think their experience and then the squad overall will shine through. And I'm going for a Leicester win.
I don't know what the injury situation is, so maybe you guys can fill in. But is NDD back? Because I think he's another player that they've missed, and I think that's what went really wrong when they played West Ham. So if he's not back, if Madison's injured as well, I think this isn't like a sure shot bet. I don't know what you're saying.
Guys, catch that FIFA game?
I did not say a sure shot bet, buddy. I said it's a bet that they're going to win at home.
I'm not
Yeah. No. So I think that's a good bet though. So if you're gonna get double your money or whatever the odds are for betting on Leicester to win at home against Villa, I think
it's just
all
outright
things
win.
considered, it's a good bet. Yeah, but I was just talking about Madison and Grealish played a little game of FIFA recently, like a couple of days ago, and they
The
were
forfeit
talking
game.
about their matchup, and Madison keeps going, "Oh, this is just like the Premier League. Michael Oliver giving all the fouls to Jack Grealish," and they were talking about NDD, and he's like, Grealish is like, every time I step on the field, that guy kicks my shins, kicks my ankles. So I'm not looking forward to playing with him.
I mean, he has a big shin
Much
to
rather-
aim at, so
Big calves, big shin. But he's like, I'd much rather play against Little Mendy. And then Madison lost it, and he said Little Mendy. So it looks like it will be Little Mendy this week again, who's actually been decent for them, but they've had a couple of sort of questionable games, and obviously that ended badly against West Ham for them. So it'll be a really
it's not just Mendy. It's also the fact that they're playing three at the back, and they used to play NDD at least at the start of the season. They played NDD as a centre back, but now they're forced to play this Amate guy.
Daniel Amate.
Yeah, and he's done a decent job, but he's not quite NDD. So I don't know.
Maybe Fofana, most probably the new signing, will probably take Evans's place.
Because you say it's just Villa, but they also played West Ham at home and they got thumped. I don't quite know what you can put it down to, but
I'm putting it down to the fact that in the grand scheme of things, I believe Leicester has a better squad than Villa. I believe once again, I'm not taking anything away from Villa. Obviously, absolutely thrashed Liverpool. They're whatever, second or third in the table for a reason. But I think if I had to bet Leicester to win at home versus Villa not to win away, I'm going to pick Leicester to win at home.
Yeah, I guess.
And I think Yeah, you have to give, like, the odds have to be in the favor of Leicester because they've had a break and not many people
That's a
have
big.
traveled for them. Yeah, and they will obviously just be looking at that one single game, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I
Let's move
mean,
on to
I
Gareth
think
Bale.
it's definitely one of those games that, like, considering the forms of both teams, anything can happen. But another game that is exactly like that is, like Apu said, the next game we want to talk about is West Ham Tottenham. And West Ham had a pathetic start to the season, having a terrible game against Newcastle, losing that game, and then having a slightly better performance against Arsenal, but still weren't able to get any points from that game. But since then, they've gone on to smash Wolves and smash Leicester. So now they host a Tottenham team that's also, sorry, they visit a Tottenham team
Yeah, they go to Tottenham.
that's had like a massive, massive result against United and will maybe be welcoming back their prodigal son in Bale. So really, really interesting game to see in terms of all of these storylines panning out and what happens. And I personally see what I watched the whole West Ham Leicester game and I was just astounded by that West Ham midfield three and the front three. I really have never seen a West Ham team play so well, so compact, so organized. They knew exactly what to do. Every time they had the ball, they had a clear idea on what exactly they were going to do. I thought Antonio was fantastic, and so was Bowen. And now they're looking to sign Benrahma, so I really
Yeah, I
think
was
that
just
would be
gonna
a,
say
a,
that.
a game-changing signing for them. If they were able to pull that across the line. Obviously, I
Will
don't
it
think it can
though?
happen by this weekend, but
It
I
has to
mean,
happen by
it's
Friday.
apparently. Oh, okay. So tomorrow is the
So
deadline.
Friday is the domestic deadline, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, him in the championship, I thought they were going to beat Fulham, but even his goal at the beginning of this season, I think it was last week or the week before, that guy is, I mean, what I think they wanted Felipe Anderson to be, someone that's actually like
That's what I was gonna
dynamic
say.
in the sense. Yeah, but he's ridiculous. I think very, very good signing if it manages to go through, like really,
But
really good
but
signing.
the thing with West Ham is they have made those signings, but like it hasn't always worked out. Like you said, what's
But
his
at
name
least this
again?
guy's played in English football in
Felipe
some
Anderson.
capacity, which is like I think somewhat helping. But I
Maybe
completely agree in the sense that it could bust,
even
but you
Harlow.
can't stop making signing. I mean, but he's not like like he's more
No, and I think
finishing and
Anderson did work though for like a
For
few
one season.
months in
Yeah,
there.
Moyes
Anderson
didn't
was like
prefer
actually a
Anderson
real.
or Yarmolenko, and both of them were performing under the previous manager, who I forget who it was. But
Slaven
as soon as
Bilic. No, was it?
yeah, as soon as Moyes came in, Anderson just fell apart, and
yeah.
Yarmolenko got injuries, and he never made it back to the first 11. So,
But yeah, moving on to Spurs, we can come back to West Ham if you guys want to talk about that a little bit. But do you expect? I think, I mean, obviously it's all a guess for all of us, but like I don't know. I expect Bale to start. It looks like he is fit. I saw a couple of pictures from training where he looks really good, which is the only indication outsiders like us will ever get. But he said he's fit, and all the staff apparently have actually put out a statement that they're really happy with his levels of fitness. And I think it'll be a really, really interesting. And this is the type of game that I could see him like actually do well in. Go ahead. What's up? What do you say?
Yeah, so no, what I was gonna ask is, and this kind of ties into how fit you think he is from a fantasy perspective, because in FPL you don't get to see the lineups. Would you put him in right now, ignoring cost in terms of fitness? Do you think would you put him in?
as one of the FPL gurus once said, when when Bale used to play back in the Premier League in 2012, if you have Gareth Bale in the FPL squad, you win. You
You
win
have
Do it.
every game week. So actually, on a
who is
serious note, I would
guy?
definitely get Gareth Bale in just because of the price. He's like 9.5. He's way cheaper than all the other, marquee midfielders available to us. And I think, like, surprisingly, Mourinho's Spurs, the front two right now, are doing really well. And I could see Gareth Bale fitting right in and, delivering with goals and assists, because both his partners are prolific in front of the goal and they've been assisting as well.
But I don't know. He has to go up against Arthur Masuaku, so I don't know. I'm not feeling too confident.
So
Masuaku's a
that's
I
beast.
tough
mean,
one, dude.
even Cresswell, he's
Yeah,
done
I
that
think
ball he gave.
Dude, that cross to Mikhail Antonio was incredible. Like if Trent did that same thing from the right side, people would have gone crazy.
Or even if Robbo did it from the left, they would have gone crazy.
But Robbo doesn't do it, dude. Not anymore.
Yeah. No, but honestly, I was just going to make a point about that game. I'm glad you guys mentioned that goal because West Ham have kind of just like copied the Sheffield system where they're playing a fullback in one of the three and they allow him to go up. So it's actually really interesting to watch. And he's basically taken Chris Wilder's system and all of Wilder's terrible players and he's replaced them with like semi-decent players and it's actually working to a real treat for them. So I'm actually really excited for this game as well, but most of all, just excited to have Premier League back. And any final thoughts or any conclusions that the boys would like to make about this upcoming weekend? Any predictions?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Ashwin, before we finish. You did mention like Maguire and United's problems and everything. Do you see Edinson Cavani starting or what do you expect from the United game? A little bit on this because it's a big game coming after a loss.
And what
that
Bruno
bad
said.
To one of their rivals, and people are saying Bruno had a fallout with Solskjaer. So, like, what do you expect going into this United game?
Didn't they say Cavani has to quarantine? Sorry to cut you off. I thought I saw that somewhere. I don't know.
Only applies
he's self-isolating or something. You're right, but I don't know if that makes him like unavailable for the game. It looks like he's most probably unavailable. Yeah, so he'll probably not have anything to do with this game, but
if you were to,
because Martial is suspended, right? So I would assume that like the most like appropriate fit. But obviously, I'm sad Apoor asked this because last week's episode I went on that whole little rant about United, and I don't even remember anything while I said it. I had to like listen to the episode the day after to like look back and be like. Because it's just so much sadness involved when you talk about those subjects. My mom actually returned from Dubai today and she bought me a United jersey and we had like a 10-minute fight about that. And I was like, why will you give this money? And my dad is like, why? You stop supporting them. I'm like, no, like it's nothing to do with
You can switch, like Apoor, you can switch if you want. Actually, I don't know if I
threw him under the bus.
So. Yeah, can't switch to the
wait. So who do you think will start as centre backs? Because I think Maguire clearly needs a break.
No, Bailly's injured, so it has to be Maguire and Lindelof again.
Yeah, so Bailly got injured again.
And I feel bad for
goes. So I think coming back to Apu's question about Maguire specifically, what I'm seeing from all the United fans online is that they desperately want him to be dropped just to give him a break. They're talking about like mental health and stuff, and it's just hard, man. Like he's really been through a lot in the last like 2 months, with the Greece thing and then coming into United having such a poor start to the season. And I was watching an interview today where like Keane and Ian Wright were both talking about how if anything ever went wrong for them outside of their dressing rooms, Keane is like, I would come back to a dressing room with Cantona, Ferdinand, and all these like massive characters that would help take care of me and help nurture me back in. And Wright was saying the same thing, for him with Tony Adams and David Rocas and all these big players, these big personalities, so whenever something would go wrong for them, they'd come back into the Arsenal United dressing room respectively and feel a sense of like calm and feel a sense of like homeliness. And they were talking about how Maguire is going to have absolutely none of that because the moment he comes back, he has Pogba and Bruno and
I mean, he's been through the same thing. Pogba's been through what Maguire's going through.
They can both sit on the bench together.
It can be benched together because that's what another huge thing is. United fans are clamoring for Pogba to be dropped. But just coming back to Maguire, you were talking about Fernandes fighting with Solskjaer. Apparently, the reason Fernandes was benched at halftime of the Spurs game was because he fought with Maguire. He went up to him and said, "You don't deserve to wear this shirt." So then it got like really like feisty to the point where Solskjaer made
someone's taking a stand.
Fernandes. Exactly. So he made Fernandes sit at halftime with Martial and watch the second half from like inside. So it's just a really good situation in the club right now. But yeah, I hope Maguire is benched, but I don't see it happening.
So do you think you can get a result at St. James's Park?
What result? Because I think
what does that mean?
Year, the game
3
that
points.
we lost 1-0. Last year we had a 1-0 loss to Newcastle at St. James, thanks to one of the Longstaff boys. But that was the worst game I've seen in my life as a United fan. So hopefully, if it's anything better than that, we can get at least a draw out
Okay,
of
but
it.
at
I don't know.
a slight tangent, why wouldn't United keep Smalling then? I thought he had a
Smalling
good
didn't want to
season.
stay.
Yeah.
Smalling was.
Honestly,
He
I
wanted to go to
completely agree with
Rome,
you. I
bro.
think like Smalling
Mm.
was definitely United's second best defender, arguably United's best centre back. So it's like a really like baffling decision, and I guess the cast was die when he made such a good impression in the Serie A last season,
Yeah.
and he was really really eager to go back there because that game seems to suit his style a little bit more. Which is odd because you'd consider like Italian defending like prime defending, and you have Mike Smalling going over there and dominating. So
Mike.
you never know football until
I mean, Phil Jones is gonna come good at some point. Ferguson said so. Just wait, bro. Don't
Said
worry.
he. Not only is he the greatest defender this club has ever had, he could be the greatest player this club has ever had. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, my prediction for the United game is a negative one. So I'm not really gonna go deeper into that. I'm just gonna pray for a Brighton type game where we get a penalty in the last kick of the game. But apart from that, if you guys have no
After full
closing
time.
comments, we will see
My closing
everybody.
comment is bet on Leicester. Minus half goal, the lock. My final closing thoughts. If they don't win, then I'm not here next week. Leave it at that.
On that note,
We'll pack it up and see you guys next week.
maybe Bala, not Bala, I don't know.